Of course, Florida is special, and we have to have two standard types of contracts for Florida buyers. Let's break down the standard contract and the as-is contract and pros and cons of each. Welcome back. I'm Charlie Cameron, Air Force veteran and leader of the Military Home Team, the top-rated military-first real estate team serving the Florida Panhandle and the bases around it. If you are looking for awesome content about VA-related buying, selling, or real estate in the Florida Panhandle, you've come to the right place. If you want to learn about the top places to live in the area, top things to do, all sorts of ins and outs of the bases and military activities, as well as just general living on the Florida Panhandle, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel. We're going to have lots of great content for you. If you get some value out of this video, please like. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the two main types of buyer contracts, real estate contracts that are used in Florida, specifically the most common ones we see around the Florida Panhandle. We're going to talk about the standard contract. I'm going to talk about why it really isn't standard, and then talk about requestable repairs and what happens with that process. And then we'll talk about the as-is contract and compare and contrast the two, what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, and then we'll talk about which one RT prefers and why, and then mention how the VA Addendum overrides both contracts. It kind of stands alone. Now, I'm Charlie Cameron again with the Military Home Team. If you are looking to purchase or sell a home, we offer military first real estate services from a military only team with a whole bunch of benefits. Go check out our 12 reasons to work with us video or reach out and we'd be happy to explain why we love our military clients so much and our veteran clients. We serve the entire Florida Panhandle and all of those bases. So take a look at that. You can call us, you can hit up our website, you can scan that QR code, or you can drop down below and there'll be a link with starting a client questionnaire to work with us. This video is really geared towards Florida Panhandle home buyers with a little bit of VA stuff baked in for our military, typical military clients. Though you Florida real estate agents, I'm sure you might learn something, and hopefully if we work together, I hope you've seen this video first. Okay, I'm gonna make my giant head smaller. Let's start with the standard contract. You can tell it's a standard contract because at the top of the contract, it'll say residential contract for sale and purchase. This form has been approved by the Florida Realtors and the Florida Bar. And so that is the standard Florida contract. It's kind of anything but standard though. It's very different from a lot of states in that the seller repair obligations are set up front in the contract, not after the inspections. So there's three types of repair categories that are set. General repair items, which is most things you'll think of. WDO, which stands for wood destroying organism. It includes both termite damage or other types of wood destroying organism damage, as well as basically general wood rot. In Florida, wood rot's pretty common. And then building permits, which we rarely ever see anything regarding those. So typically you'll see 500 to 2,000 for general repair items. You'll see 500 to 1,000 in WDO. You'll see 0 to 500 in building permits. Some agents will sometimes say 2,000 in repairs across all categories, right? So it may depend. The contract on it will say if you don't put anything here, it'll be 1% of the purchase price. But since our homes are anywhere from 3 to 500,000 in the 400s in the median range, you're not going to see someone allow 4,000 and 4,000 and 4,000 in each of these categories for allowable repairs. That's just a lot of unknown costs for the seller. They're not going to want to do that. So these are typically what we see. And so the contract actually will define what is a requestable and what's not a requestable repair. So you can't just be like, the roof is 5 years old, I want a new roof, right? That's not a requestable repair by contract. Now, we'll talk about that in a little more detail, but of course there's gray areas. And it happens all the time where it's like, where does that fall? And we kind of have to talk about it and negotiate it with the other agent and come to a conclusion. Now, there's three scenarios that can happen when you go under contract, you do your inspection, and now there's repairs. Because guess what? I've never seen a clean inspection in my life as an investor or an agent, even if it's a new build home. So there's going to be things in the inspection that come up. And so what we generally see with those three scenarios are, the first one is, hey, we're going to request some requestable repairs, and they're under the repair limit. Okay, great. The seller has to go do those. The second one is requested repairs are over the repair limit, and then you serve those to the seller and they say, you know, it's a little bit more after we went and got our bids. It's more than the amount that we said we would repair up front. However, we're willing to do them all. And so they'll do them, and so you'll continue with the contract. And then the last one is requested repairs are over the repair limit, and the seller will not do them all. That's where we have to get into some sort of negotiation and go back and forth and kind of figure out what it's going to take to continue with this contract. Okay, so what repairs are requestable? There's a lot of words on this slide. All I really want to touch on is that this paragraph right here really defines what working condition of items need to stay in working condition by contract and what cosmetic conditions don't need to be fixed by contract, including things like nail holes, scrapes, chips, caulking of ceilings, walls, floors, fixtures, worn tiles, worn flooring, minor cracks in walls, windows, driveways, sidewalks, pool decks, garage patio floors, and roof, worn shingles, limited roof life. Those are all considered not defects that the seller is required to repair or replace, so long as there's no actual leaks or structural damage. That's really important to know and understand this. Your agent's going to understand that for you, for sure, hopefully, right? And we've encountered a lot of agents who don't. And we've had recently an agent request a roof where the inspection said the roof is totally adequate and will last 5 to 10 more years. And so you can't do that. You simply cannot. So if you come into a contract, you know, if your buyer's agent comes into a contract and says, yeah, we can do that, no problem. We're just going to sneak this roof in later after the inspection to a standard contract. That's not how that works. Okay, so that did not go well. Of course, they did not get a new roof. And so certainly you want to make sure you work with agents who understand this piece. And if you're watching this, that's now you, right? So understand this piece. Your agent will hopefully understand this for you. It is really important just to know that not everything is requestable. You can't just request stuff because you want it, right? It has to be a requestable repair if you're using the standard contract, all right? So let's walk through these 3 repair scenarios in a little bit more detail. So requested repairs, if they're under the limit, the seller's going to make them. You're locked in the contract as the buyer, right? There's no like, I had my inspection, some stuff come up that I didn't like, but I requested those things to be fixed, and the seller, and it's under the repair limit, the seller's going to make them. That's it, right? There's really not cold feet, I'm out. That's not how the standard contract works. You set that limit up front ahead of time on purpose. The seller agreed to it on purpose. So if those repairs are within the limit, you're locked in. It's not like most states where you could potentially just walk away due to whatever inspection and finding. Then the second scenario is if the repairs are over the limit and the seller decides to do them all, the buyer's locked into the contract. Here's an example. If let's say the HVAC unit needs new Freon or needs a new condenser outside, and that's thousands of dollars and it's over the limit, the buyer requests it and the seller says, you know what, that's fair, you should have AC, I'm going to replace it, then you're still locked into the contract, right? The buyer is making the seller is making any and all repairs requested, which is good for you, right? You want that as the buyer. You're locked into that contract. And then this third scenario is where the repair limit, the repairs break the repair limit and the seller is not willing to do them all. Essentially, now you as the buyer may choose which repairs to do that fall within the limit, and then the seller shall, as long as they're requestable, and then the seller shall complete those, and you're locked into the contract. Now, if you cannot agree on that piece, then either party may terminate the agreement and refund your deposit. So if you look at all these scenarios here, there's only one case where you can walk away and refund the deposit, and that's this one right here, okay? If it's over the limit and you as the buyer don't want to reduce how many you're requesting to under the repair limit, then there's the scenario where you can terminate this agreement. As you can probably tell, there's a lot of gray area here, and sometimes things don't always, people aren't agreeing to what actually falls into these categories and things like that. So it can get a little bit frustrating at times, of course, but we'll do our best to walk you through that. Note, in most cases, you're locked into buying this home. So you as the buyer, setting up how many repairs you want to request. The seller is agreeing to that up front, right? We're all saying how many repairs are agreeable up front. So that's why there's no exit because of an inspection later. So I just want you to kind of be aware of that's maybe a downside for many people. Now, Tips for buyers on the standard contract. You want to maximize the repair limit whenever possible within reason for our local market. You know what, you can't request the world up front because it just won't, that contract will just never get under contract. You can only request requestable repairs. Don't plan on getting a whole bunch of extra repairs as freebies. You know, I want an upgraded fridge. I want you to replace the roof even though it's good. That's just not going to happen. You know, if there are a ton of repairs, we could consider asking for a concession in lieu of repairs, right? So let's say it's over the limit. We could just say, hey, you know what? It's over the limit. We have a lot to do with this house. We're willing to do them as the buyer after closing if you give us a little bit more in concessions than, you know, what we asked for in repairs. Everything's negotiable, right? And this last one, you know, if you get cold feet, you know, trying to over request repairs, I've seen it, and use that to get out of the contract, that's probably not going to pan out, right? Sometimes you may be able to escape that way, and sometimes you'll still be locked in. If you do get locked in, right? If we meet one of those other two scenarios or half of the third one and you're locked in to buy this house and you decide to walk at that point, it's highly likely you're going to lose your earnest money, that we're not going to be able to recover it for you. And so we don't want to put ourselves in that situation in the first place. So that's why I made this video, so we could talk through this and understand pros and cons and understand the entire process. Bottom line is you should never bid on a home unless you're in love with that home. I don't know where the rest of my words went, but you get the idea. Now, the standard contract is really not standard because in most parts of the country, you don't request repairs up front. You do your inspection, then you request repairs, and then you negotiate an amicable continuation of the deal or walk away and go somewhere else, right? So in most states, you might expect to go under contract multiple times because this isn't a thing, right? And it's really not as certain whether you're going to close a home in most states until after the inspection and repair negotiation period. But in Florida, buyers are locked up front, which really isn't that standard of a thing. There's really no walking away for, you know, if you decide you don't like the purple paint in the bedroom, you can't walk away for that during the inspection period. Now, it usually works out fine, but occasionally it gets messy, unfortunately, right? Now, let's talk about the as-is contract. So you'll know it's as-is because it says as-is on it, right? Shocking. Now, this sounds to me more like a standard contract for the rest of the country, which is you can walk away for any reason during the inspection period, even that purple paint, though we don't advise bidding on a house if you were planning on leaving for that reason. You're saying you're willing to buy the home in its current condition with this contract. That's why it's called as is. You can still request repairs, but sellers and listing agents expect you not to request repairs, and we're going to talk more about these shenanigans here in a second. And this contract does appear more competitive because you're saying you're willing to buy the home without asking for repairs. So here's the thing. Because there's as is in the name of the contract, many listing agents and the sellers educated by those listing agents will assume that the buyer is not going to make any repair requests whatsoever, right? You know, you're rolling your eyes right now, I can tell. But what our team does is we let the listing agent know up front that we will request repairs in one of two cases. One, if there is a massive list of minor repairs, we're probably going to ask for seller credit. So if you're a buyer working with us, we're going to tell you, hey, if we're submitting an as-is contract, you need to expect to make most of the minor repairs, but we may be able to request a seller concession for some of those repairs that you can make after closing, okay? Now, the other case where we will request a repair if there is something major, if there's a roof leak, if there's broken HVAC, if there's plumbing, if there's foundation issues, we're going to request those, okay? Because it's an as-is contract, again, we can walk away for any reason during the inspection period. So we're going to make a request. If they don't want to honor our request, okay, fine, then we can walk, right? So here's the thing. Right? Like I said, you can walk away for any reason during the inspection on an as-is. So we can request repairs, but we cannot expect repairs, okay? So it really just comes down to we can walk if we don't get what we want. What we normally advise is, you know, we're going to walk through the home with you or for you, and we're going to tell you how we think a home is going to do on an inspection. We're going to use the best inspector ever on the Panhandle, and we're going to have a pretty good idea of how that home is going to do. And then we're going to have that conversation with you as we write the contract. Hey, you know, we can write it as is. However, there may be quite a few things to repair after you close on the home, yada, yada. And so we're going to manage all our expectations together up front and know what we're getting into with, hey, the opportunity to ask for repairs, but not expect them, right? I've seen some agents get really bent out of shape out of this on this. Please don't. If I come to you, I'm going to tell you about these things that we will do. And I really think you need to get out of that mindset of as is means as is. Like, no, this is just a more standard of a contract. And if big things come up on the inspection, we're going to request them. So I've seen agents get just totally tore up over a $200 repair. Crazy stuff, where I ended up having to pay for it to keep the deal together for my client. Crazy stuff. So the VA addendum stands alone. So if you're one of our military clients, the VA appraisal is special. It can come with its own repairs. All right, so this is a fun, usually last minute event. We have a whole video on that as well. Though our team, again, can usually tell. We know what repairs VA appraisers will usually ask for, so we can pretty much tell whether there's going to be anything that comes up. There will be a separate repair request and amount set up front for VA appraiser required repairs, regardless of the contract, usually like $500, but it doesn't matter if it's an as-is contract or the standard contract. This is going to be a separate addendum that stands alone, where we're going to be asking for, hey, if the appraiser comes back with any requested repairs, seller, you're just going to make those up to our repair amount, period, because they must be done to close. All right, the lender's not going to close with you until the seller has done those repairs. There's really no way around it. And we try to make sure the listing agents know that up front. If they're not experienced with VA, it's, by the way, seller has to make any VA repairs. They should do that in our area, but it still happens. But it's an as-is contract. Yeah, I've heard it before. So let's compare the two now. We've got our standard contract. Pros, you get repair amounts up front. You know how much you're going to get. You can set it up front. You can get small repairs done. The cons are there's no escape, right? You're locked into that contract most of the time. It's hard to verify repair quality. You can ask for license bonded, repair folks and all that stuff. That's going to increase costs of stuff, but it's not always easy to tell how well something was fixed, right? And then you have difficulty with agents who don't understand what's requestable and what's not. On the as-is contract, the pros are you can walk for any reason during the inspection period. You can still ask for repairs, you just can't expect them, or you can ask for concessions. And then if you use this contract, you could use concessions to make repairs that you can verify are done well and correctly because you're the one issuing the repairs, right? Making the repairs happen. You can also, of course, put seller concessions up front in either contract separate from the repair amount if we think there's going to be things that need to be repaired as well. And then the cons on the as-is you can't and of course enforce the repairs, and some listing agents disagree with requesting repairs just outrightly on an as-is contract. Now we prefer the as-is contract because we think it gives our for buyers, because we think it gives our buyers a lot more flexibility in what they're able to do during this period. We also recommend concessions over small repairs so that you know that they're done correctly, though major repairs we're going to have sellers do. That's essentially what we prefer, and we have way fewer issues with this than we have had with standard contract. Now, for our VA loan clients, be sure to go check out. There's, of course, a lot more information and a lot more things that happen on a VA loan, a little bit additional add-ons. There's the VA addendum. I go through that and explain it in a video. I talk about closing costs for VA buyers on our channel, and then end-to-end VA buyer process. That's this video. That's like a 30-minute one, but really helpful. And then things to know about the VA loan. If you don't know, I'm going to get you fully educated on that, and then ways to reduce your mortgage payments. We have a bunch of videos on that. Buying a home can be a little bit tricky. We at the Military Home Team can help. Not only that, but for our veterans and military, we pay for your home warranty as a buyer. We have commission discounts for our sellers. We have massive lender and title agency discounts when you work with us and our partners, and we're experienced at navigating the home buying and selling process, and we're successful at maximizing seller concessions and rate buydowns. So if you got any questions about any of this whatsoever, feel free to give us a call, hit us up on our website, hit us up on our Panhandle PCS Facebook community, or hit that link tree there and reach out to us. Thanks for watching. If you got some value out of this, I got a favor to ask. Please like, please subscribe. We got a bunch more content to help all sorts of buyers and sellers in the area, especially our military veterans and active duty members. And if you need help whatsoever in buying and selling a home on the Florida Panhandle, please reach out to the Military Home Team. We're here to help. Our info will be below. Cheers.